Hi, this is Miki Berardelli. I'm excited to be here to moderate this panel with an illustrious group of panelists. My background is that I grew up through the marketing ranks. I held senior marketing positions at Ralph Lauren, Tory Burch, Chico's FAS, and ultimately rose to the CEO spot and ran a startup called Kidbox for several years. I'm now running my own practice and really just helping consumer brands scale through transformation and best-in-class digital proficiency. So with that, I will hand it over to the panelists to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eric Gohs. I'm the VP of Performance Marketing for the Loft, Ann Taylor, and Lane Bryant brands. I've kind of a digital native from a marketing perspective, spending a number of years at CDW, Zen, and Express prior to coming into my current role.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leslie Emmons Burthy. I am VP of Marketing at a company called GoodRX, where I focus on our growth businesses, including our Gold subscription service and our telehealth business. I recently started with GoodRX last September. Prior to GoodRX, have retail experience, actually overlapped with Miki earlier in my career at Ralph Lauren. And worked at companies like Dior, and then most recently made the switch to more fast-growing startups, working at a company called Wink, and then most recently FabFitFun, where I was the VP of marketing there.
Hi, everybody. Deena, Bahri, Chief Marketing Officer at StockX. We are a global marketplace for current culture products. I have a long career in e-commerce marketing and subscription commerce marketing, and I started my career at Reebok selling sneakers and apparel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gary Burtka, and I'm the VP of Operations for US for RTB House. We are a global deep learning technology company based in Warsaw, Poland. Little fun fact, I was actually the first American to join RTB House back in 2017. So there's over 40 of us now. So it's been a fun ride. Prior to joining RTB, I've served such brands as Land's End, Ticketmaster, and Cridia.
Great, thank you. So we'll go right into the content now. My first question, and we're only going to spend a moment looking back. We're going to spend most of our time together today looking forward through the windshield at 2021. But just for one question, I'd like everyone or each panelist to describe your 2020 advertising in a couple of sentences or words, and perhaps share some, if any, previous branding efforts were put on hold due to the pandemic in 2020. And I will start with Gary.
Sure. So, at RTB House, we do a lot of in-person events, and essentially all those in-person live events were all canceled or paused. So we had to flip the script and do everything virtual. We actually tested a few of our own virtual events, and I got to say, it's not as easy as you all make it look at Commerce Next. It was very difficult. So we ended up focusing a lot on partnering with people that can host great events, as well as really ramping up all of our premium content, including case studies, emails, and press releases.
And now we'll move to Eric.
So, obviously challenging year when the pandemic hits. We did pivot some of our upper funnel media spend and any, kind of fixed media costs. Direct mail, for instance, we pulled back on, not knowing, kind of what the situation was going to be from a store's reopening perspective, because we just wanted to remain nimble. And we pivoted a lot of that spend to meet her where she was at. And for our brands, that meant mobile and that meant social, right? So as she's spending a lot of time looking at screens like this, and she's got another one right over here, and I guarantee, right, that browser is open. So the idea of reaching her at different times as well too, right? Email open rate, or time of email open changed. Our ability to kind of reach her at all times of the day while she was multitasking between, work and home tasks, provided us an opportunity to reach her.
Great. Deena, what about you? 2020, what happened in 2020 and how are you?
So much happened. And really for us, 2020 was about building a foundation, setting us up for success in 2021 and beyond. We're a hyper-growth company kind of moving through early stage into adolescence. And so last year was a lot about building those foundational systems and disciplines that will enable us to scale and grow. So in my world, which is marketing, we built a foundation for two main things: customer centricity and efficient growth. And on the former, customer centricity meant doing things like building an customer insights practice, a customer experience management practice, so that we could really hear the voice of the customer, mine what we're hearing for insights that are actionable, and manage the end-to-end experience thoughtfully. On the growth side, we really basically rebuilt our whole acquisition, retention, marketing practices from the ground up, investing in growth analytics, rethinking the funnel and the media mix, thinking about end-to-end journeys, and seeing a lot of wins and leaning in where we saw wins. So that's 2020 in a nutshell.
Thank you. And Leslie, can you share some insight?
Yeah, I'd say, 2020 was a lot, right, on so many different levels. But I'd say one of the things that was really interesting about both of the companies that I was at in 2020 was, while a lot of brands a lot of companies were leaning back or changing plans, one of the really interesting things that I found, so starting with FabFitFun, where I was for most of 2020, was the importance of leaning into brand more and mission more than ever. So, FabFitFun is all about delivering on customer needs, delivering happiness. And we found that in 2020, given the times, that was needed more than ever. So really leaning into what we were already doing, but doubling down really, really helped. Similarly, moving to GoodRX, where the mission is to deliver affordable, convenient healthcare to everyone, everywhere. Again, more important than ever. So leaning into these brands and kind of doubling down on what we were already doing really paid off and resonated with people.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine what a pivot that was, to use Eric's word. So moving to the next question, which I'm excited to hear from all of you on, in describing, 2020 is now in the rearview mirror. Now we're purely looking out the windshield. So when we think about the culture or the zeitgeist of 2021, what do you believe marketers should be taking into consideration in terms of priorities? And I'm going to start with Deena.
Yeah. So we are very focused on the rise of the next gen consumer. And we think, all brands should be focused on this. This consumer is so influential, really leading all segments, whether it's, demographic or psychographic. And what this consumer wants is, autonomy. They want self-expression. They want to engage with brands that respect them, that connect them to like-minded community, that help them participate in culture and express themselves in culture. And they care a lot about values. They care a lot about being seen and heard for who they are. And they want authenticity and transparency. So this consumer cannot be ignored. We've seen the rise of this consumer through 2020, and it will certainly continue through 21. And we're excited about the impact of this consumer on kind of mass culture and the mainstream. So we're certainly focused on this wave and think all brands should be.
Thank you. Yeah, having two teenagers, I can definitely attest to the influence that the Gen Z customer is having on the household.
Yeah.
Leslie, what about you in describing the culture of the zeitgeist of 2021?
Yeah, I'd say coming off of 2020, just thinking, similar themes here, but a little bit of a different angle. Deena mentioned the, new age consumer, and I'd say it's very much the same for us, but thinking about it from a behavior standpoint. So all of the changes that have gone into effect in 2020, how does that influence behaviors going forward? So things like changes in healthcare, and whether you're, a healthcare company or a retail company, remote access is important, contactless behaviors, all of which lend themselves really nicely to, an online healthcare company, particularly in the telehealth space. So really leaning into how are behaviors changing, and again, authenticity, transparency, all very, very important. A little bit of a different angle with healthcare, but going off of 2020, just really, really trying to lean into that and get people used to new behaviors.
Absolutely. And Gary, what about you?
I think great segue, Leslie, because I think a lot of it's about new behavior. And it's funny, I've been talking to marketers for many years about mobile, and it seems like it's always been the year of mobile. But really the pandemic's driven a lot of different kind of mobile usability. And working for global companies the last many years, what I've seen is North America really lagging in great in-app experiences and mobile experiences. And I think this is driving marketers to really invest in these experiences, whether it's through responsive architecture or through the app itself. Because, if you look at companies like Meijer on the grocery delivery side or Home Depot on the home services side, they're getting a lot of traffic coming and engaging at the curbside pickup, right? These contactless experiences. And so I think that, moving forward, brands that are positioning themselves to benefit from this or getting traffic will be able to retarget, reuse these audiences later and really do well with it as they revitalize this new mobile experiences that they're creating.
Great. And rounding out the panel with Eric.
Yeah, so I'm excited for 2021, as I think most people are. As a collection of brands whose mission is to provide fashion and inspiration to all women. This year is really about optimism and celebrating her, right? So, and the ability to hopefully celebrate together, sooner rather than later. So, one of the challenges that fashion brands and apparel brands have is that most often our apparel has a use, right? And often that use is places that you're wearing it, right? Whether that's, your kid's graduation, a Mother's Day event, the way that, we've kind of started dressing as we're, at home more has changed. And, so we're excited about a return to those, those emotionally based events, right? Where the dress that you're wearing to that event, to that wedding, to the, your like I said, your kid's graduation, those etch in your memory, right? And that's what, fashion can bring. It's emotional. So we're really excited about that. And we're excited to celebrate her as well, too, right? Our customer. This past year has been challenging, but we've been so inspired by her, right? So she's pivoted back and forth between playing the role of teacher, nurse, chef, friend, chief snuggling officer, and she's had to be, running her businesses, working at her company, and all doing that remotely for many, many people. So we're really excited to celebrate her and kind of put her at the center and, show her that we're as optimistic as she is, and she's helped inspire that.
Yeah, that's great. I often think about apparel, having spent a big part of my career in that category, and cars may become driverless, and this will continue to be the remote control of our lives, but people will always wear clothes. So I think it's an opportunity to think creatively about that category. And I love what all of you said, just in terms of, it feels like behavior has changed because of what we learned in 2020. So what does that mean going forward? And I really appreciate all of your responses. Moving to the next question. This is really focused on advertising. Do you feel that there are any new advertising mediums or technology that you're excited about at this time and looking forward to, or currently testing and exploring? And we'll start with Deena.
Yeah. So Gary, you said something about it's been the year of mobile for a long time. I feel like it was, the year of connected and streaming TV for a long time as well. I think one of the things that we saw happen in this last year is the promise of a lot of these technologies sort of came to fruition. And for us in streaming and connected TV in particular, we had a lot of really interesting, I think, technology advances. And we as a company at StockX tested with great success things like running spots on Hulu in a very targeted fashion, and then allowing users to opt into our email list right in the ad unit, and being able to then retarget that user on a different platform later in their journey. We spend all of our media dollars are very targeted against very specific audiences. So this ability to really hone in on a given audience and then engage with that person downstream, down funnel, across platforms is critically important. So we had another example like that where we tested with a TV partner called Steelhouse, again, very targeted. And then once a user saw our video unit, we were able to retarget them digitally and get them sort of more moving down the funnel. So that type of engagement through a user journey is really important to us as a business, because we're online. We want that sort of gratification all the way through and that response. And now some of the TV platforms are offering these really interesting cross-platform ad products. So that's what I'm excited about.
That's great. And Gary, what about you?
Yeah, I'm excited about that as well. I think connectivity is great. I'm also really excited about kind of, gone is the day of one social network really dominating the space, right? We've seen emergence of TikTok. We're now seeing influencers able to do well in places like Pinterest. And so I think that enables brands to really create unique partnerships with not just big influencers, but all kinds of medium level influencers that can, do everything from partnering with filters and more engaging pieces within apps to creating really unique content that speaks to their brand, their story. So, I really see a great future across these many networks, especially when it looks like partnering with companies like Eric, right, to really show the story of her and engage with her throughout throughout all of 2021. So I'm excited where social's going, and I think we have a bright future ahead.
Great. And then Eric, I know you have some interesting things to add.
Yeah, so this isn't going to be necessarily as new as talking about connected TV, but really a heavy investment, both time and resources into personalization, but not just from a site or an email perspective, but from a media perspective as well too. As Deena talked about, audiences, making sure that you're reaching the right audience with the right message. So we partner with a number of companies. One that we've leaned into is a partnership with Bluecore to look at how can we influence site, email, SMS, as well as our paid media. So how can we reach her with as relevant of a message as possible, and use some predictive models that can help us look for potentially new clients who look like some of our existing clients. But obviously, one of the challenges that during a pandemic, the behaviors change, the data changes. So some of those predictive models, that maybe had historically been trained on year-over-year comps, you're looking a little tighter in on those. So I think that's, if I can, plead to anyone that, year-over-year, throw that out, Look over the last 3 months, look at how you're trending and make some pivots and decisions from that perspective.
Absolutely. And I think at the same time, 2020 becomes our new baseline, for moving forward. It's like clean slate. This is our baseline. Where do we move from there? And that if I was to sort of summarize the key themes of everything that you said, it's what's exciting for marketers, for me, is that we can be brave and bold now. Those of us who've worked for companies that maybe, were trepidatious in terms of trying new things and experimenting with new mediums. Now there's much more of an openness. And I think that's very exciting, especially in the year ahead. Moving to the next question. Many of us have gone through organizational changes in this past year. And, these changes have required, senior marketers to think of their resources and their team members in different ways. So I thought, it would be helpful for the audience to hear about any organizational changes that you've experienced and perhaps how you see that benefiting you. With that dose of optimism. And I'll start with Gary.
Sure. So I guess, two big changes I've seen since it's happening. And, as companies are trying to, do more with less, I see them, focusing more on full services and not so much on trying to actually optimize, manage, and launch all the campaigns themselves. And, and then I see that trend even spilling over into the actual clients that are coming in. And so as big companies knee-jerked and paused large budgets across affiliate and programmatic and search and major channels, what we saw was, digital-first companies heavily investing in this space. They saw an opportunity to invest and emerge. And, the trends, at least in programmatic that I saw, it really paid off for those companies that did invest, because CPCs all the way up through Q4 were down almost 20%. And with the traffic they were buying, they were actually seeing CTRs increase over 15%. So because there was less competition, those brands that were willing to take a chance, willing to invest during the pandemic, are actually seeing more engagement for cheaper traffic. And I think this is a real big win-win for all the partners involved.
Absolutely. That's a really great point and very optimistic. Deena, what about you in terms of organizational changes? I know you shared some of that in your high growth atmosphere.
Yeah. Yep, I can expound a little more. So we, like I said, going through transformation and hyper growth as a company. I'm relatively new in my role. I came in about a year ago, a little bit longer than a year ago, and into the first ever CMO role. So, you know, kind of rethinking how marketing should be done at the company. One of my first moves was to bring the team together, the qualitative and the quantitative sides of marketing, which were kind of fragmented, reporting into different organizations, uniting them under one team, building more sort of subject matter expertise, in some cases bringing in more senior talent, and filling in the bench beneath that of talent so that we could be excellent at every area of marketing, whether it's acquisition, retention. We built some new teams, like I mentioned, analytics is one, customer insights and experience is another, and then also making sure we have enough talent on the qualitative side. So we have creative, cultural marketing, content, and integrated marketing. So a little bit of reshaping of the organization, and then, you know, helping to drive some cultural shifts around being data driven, around being really driven to test and learn. You mentioned this, Miki, right? Iterative, de-risking investment by breaking it down into a test and learn framework. And then diversifying the way that we do things and working with finance to come up with some new frameworks for investing. I think in an environment like last year's, it can be scary to lean into spend, but when your business is thriving, you can again de-risk that by maybe coming up with a stage gate process with finance, or really clarifying the KPIs and measuring those religiously so that there is no doubt about how you're doing against the goals. So those are some of the changes, and you know, we are ready to lean into a really exciting 2021. So all that work was worth it.
Yeah, I can definitely empathize, having been the first CMO at Tory Burch when I joined in 2009, and that was an interesting time too. It almost feels like every 8 to 10 years we have these inflection points of all these new mediums to test and learn into. I'm sure that time span will shorten as we move ahead because the landscape is shifting so quickly, but that's really great insight. And then Eric, I know you have some interesting organizational changes that also speaks to the importance of the customer.
Yeah, so you know, you heard me talk about, you know, kind of her at the center of what we're thinking about. We kind of did that with organizing around a chief customer officer role, and that was a new role across our organization. And they've got responsibility for not just how we reach her, but how we reach her everywhere. So both site, marketing, media, the stores group, as well as the customer insights and analytics, as Deena spoke to. But not only that, the IT organization as well. So if you want to do something like virtual styling appointments because our stores are closed, right? You've kind of, you know, cleared a path to say, listen, we know we can get the technology in place. So, you know, cutting out some of those, you know, decision trees on that, and just focusing on what's going to be important to her, right? So organizing around the customer was a key change for us this year.
Great. Yeah, I think, you know, it's coming through loud and clear that this is really, this has been the time frame where the customer truly takes a seat at the table in all decision making, and has gone as far as, you know, organizing around. And I think those of us marketers who've been, you know, carrying the torch for that for many years, it's exciting and certainly optimistic, and will probably lead to much greater results in our efforts. So this brings me to kind of a fun little speed round session. I'm just going to ask some quick questions, and we're going to go in the order that we agreed upon. And just, you know, quick answer if you just want to say yes or no, or if you want to expound with a couple of words or sentences, that would be great. So in 2021, do you see more or less content marketing?
More.
Definitely more.
100% more.
A lot more.
Okay. We have unanimous there. What about video? More or less video in 2021?
I'll caveat that and say more motion, not.
Love that.
Oh, love that caveat.
Yeah, so motion.
I'll say more. Keep it short.
More and more native for different platforms.
Yeah, I agree with Deena.
Great. Okay, so I think Gary mentioned TikTok, or Eric. and it's been the year of TikTok, really. And so, do you see TikTok as a scalable, effective channel? Yes or no?
Maybe.
Well, I said TBD, but maybe too. I think it might depend on what you deem as effective and what you're trying to. Certainly scalable, but TBD in terms of what your goals are.
I'm a yes, but their ad products need to mature first, and I'm confident they'll get there fast.
That's my TBD.
It's definitely scalable, but I'm not sure about the return yet.
Yeah, it's almost like this is the new one that people are wondering about the return, as we used to think of Facebook, several years ago. And then finally, for our speed round, will brands become more or less dependent on the Facebook, Google duopoly?
I'll say 2021 similar to last year.
I will say likely less.
Yeah, I'm less within social. I think with Snap and Pinterest and TikTok maturing, we'll see more options. And then with the return of TV, I think again more options, and direct mail, lots more options for us now.
Yeah, I think with connected TV and shoppable videos coming out, I think you're going to see a lot more abilities to change your investment opportunities.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have been hearing in the landscape, in the marketplace, that direct mail is kind of making this resurgence.
Yeah.
Because, what's been clogging our mailboxes for years and years and years gone past, that doesn't happen anymore. So the messages that marketers are able to send through with the added, technology around personalization and, I call it at a glance marketing, using new dynamic, smaller pieces to get the message across, has been yielding results. So it's nice to see some traditional methods also being effective in the mix. So final question for all of you. Can you share some parting thoughts for our attendees and our audience on what they should be thinking about, if you had to summarize it in a few words or sentences? Large patterns at large, like how best to succeed in 2021. And I will start with Gary.
I'd say, in 2021, there's going to be a lot of changes from our privacy to how we engage with products. So I would say it's going to be a year of short-term solutions. Companies will be testing to find their path forward, and be weary of anybody that tells you they have it all figured out.
Great advice. Deena, what about you?
I think for me, my advice is sort of the age-old advice I would give for any company looking to build a brand for the ages, which is, really know and understand your own brand truth, know and understand your customer. We've talked about that a ton, and understand the intersection between the two, and figure out how you can carve out something ownable and differentiated in that space that intersects.
Great. And Leslie?
Yeah, similar theme. So I think, with the emphasis on brand, I agree with that, especially with smaller brands making bigger investments in what's been, typically deemed as more traditional or top of funnel. I think it's more important than ever through CI or whatever data work you can to know your customer and have really thought out, detailed go-to-market strategies that are tailored to each segment that you're trying to hit. So gone are the days of blanket direct response. And I think leaning into brand and being true to both your brand and your customer is more important than ever.
Great. And Eric?
All right, rapid fire 3. 1, if you had strong new customer growth in 2020, don't forget to nurture those relationships in 2021. Number 2, if you have physical stores, not everybody's going to feel as comfortable coming back in. So, our traffic pattern is going to be different. Keep those investments, those pivots that you made with BOPUS and, virtual styling, keep those in front of her so that she, knows that she has choices and options. And number 3, we talked about it, test new platforms, right? Pinterest, TikTok, things that might not have traditionally been ad platforms where you made heavier investments. Test small and scale when you can.
Great. Okay, so to summarize our final parting thoughts, I guess, behavior has changed forever. We certainly heard that loud and clear from our panelists. The word pivot came up a lot. So this is this idea of agility, test and learn, flexibility, curiosity, and that there are several new mediums to do so with, and we encourage you to do so. What I'm probably most excited about is this, overwhelming message about customer centricity. After many years of, really rooting for that, we are here. We have arrived. The customer truly has a seat at the table in all of our decision making, and it's peppered throughout the organization, which is very encouraging. And this laser focus on customer experience is certainly top of mind. We cannot end this session without underlining the importance of the Gen Z customer, the influence they have, and probably, equally important, the preferences and expectations they have. So in terms of speed and personalization and relevance, all of those themes will become more and more important as we move ahead. And then, this is the on-demand world. So we not only have mobile and apps at our fingertips, we finally have the convergence of TV and streaming and media and digital. They're more tightly woven than ever, and I think we all predict that they will continue to be so as we move forward, and probably moving at a faster clip than ever before. So with that, I want to thank our illustrious panelists. You guys were amazing. I hope the audience got a lot out of the session, and we truly enjoyed being with you, and have a really good day. Thank you.